So, I managed to delete my old footage of this one. It's a good job I kept the save file for this because, yeah, I recorded this like a week and a half ago, and yeah, I managed to just delete the stuff while I was clearing up other things. Oops! Hey guys, this is GamerGal. Welcome to another Pokemon Trading Card Game History video. This time we're on the 2014 rotation, and now that we've done all of the games for the Flash Fire set, we have the Furious Fistings all loaded and everything's ready to go for that, but we do have to cover what we are losing, because we're losing quite a bit here. There's only 3 sets, but unlike the last one, there is a lot more that's impactful here. Although, there is also, being Gen 5, a lot of things which are not rotating because of Legendary Treasures in this case. The reprint set, go figure, would reprint a lot of the stuff that we would lose, and it's been kind of annoying trying to figure that out. That's what all of this is, but we will get to that as we go. So just as a real quick bird's eye overview, we have Next Destinies over here, which was the first EX set, so that's obviously going. Dark Explorers, the dark themed set that we're starting to get back to some type sets now, but Dark was the only one that got it before, because I don't know why. I guess Dark has never really been good until here, so they wanted to make it good, and well, that's what they did. And then Dragons Exalted, well, this one makes sense because it's the new type, right? So yeah, the Dragon theme set going away as well. Oh well. Speaking on that, we do have Dragon Vault as well, which is going away, and that makes it, this is incredibly important as a result. But yeah, these cards never really saw any play whatsoever. Even the Kyurem was like a mega fringe pick if you wanted to play it in Blastoise. And that was realistically just never happening because it just makes it too clunky, so whatever. We have some promos that are going away as well, the main notable one being Tropical Beach, but we will get there as we do. The rest of this, almost all of these are actually getting reprinted, funnily enough, so yeah, let's just get into that bit, because there's a lot. So, what actually gets reprinted here? I have all of the artworks as to why they stay in format as well, so we will get into that. It's mostly Legendary Treasures, but not all of them, because Ninetales here is a promo card. I never even knew this existed, to be honest, and it is a gorgeous promo, but yeah, really fun card. Unfortunately, isn't really that useful anymore. There's not a whole bunch of reasons to use the thing like you could with the Victory Bell that's in Furious Fists, but that card is terrible. And yeah, we don't really need Gust on a Pokemon card like this anymore. Maybe if we still had Level Ball, but spoilers, I suppose, it's down here. So yeah, unsearchable. There was an Eevee collection at some point, which Jolteon is obviously part of here. This is going to get used by Pepper in the Evolution deck that he's trying out for Furious Fists, so yeah, not going to spoil how that goes, but it can beat Yveltal EX with a Silver Bangle, so that's pretty cool. Likewise, the Espeon is somewhat noteworthy from there as well, because if you do have energy attached to your guys, then you can prevent effects of attacks from that, so that's pretty neat. Obviously doesn't affect things like Quaking Punch that affects you, but blocking status conditions, blocking like smokescreen style effects, it's pretty nice. Mewtwo EX gets a Legendary Treasures print, so that's obviously staying. So does Mew, and Altaria does not, but it has a Boundaries Cross print. So that stays in if you want your Dragon types to have a little bit extra firepower. Dragon types don't tend to get printed too much at the moment though, so I don't even think there's a good Dragon deck before. Maybe Giratina, but I think that's in the last set of this rotation. So yeah, I don't think this actually matters, but it's there. Rayquaza gets a non-EX print in LTR. So I suppose if you want to try and do the Raybor style thing that Sai tried in Legendary Treasures itself, then that's fine. Empoleon got a shiny print. I actually missed this one initially, so you can still play Empo. The Piplup and Primplup that we were using rotate, but Legendary Treasures has got a different version of them, which is totally fine. So the deck is still playable if you really want to. I don't know why you would, but I guess Diving Draw is quite nice. So yeah. Driftblim got a promo print. Shadow Steel is going to be more important if you want to counteract stuff, you know, because special energy is getting more prevalent. So that's kind of nice. We are losing a few special energy, but you know, strong energy is in the next set. Type Fiend energies are going to get better and better as we go, so that's still nice. Garchomp got a shiny print in Plasma Freeze, which is nice. It also got a Legendary Treasures print, but the good Gabite did not. Sad to say, so we'll get to that as we go, but Dragon Call is not really a thing, so this deck is pretty useless, but you know, at least you could still technically play it if you want to. Darkrai EX, Legendary Treasures, as is Shaman. Yeah, Shaman I don't think got a promo print before that, so whatever. Superior from Legendary Treasures, so Royal Heal is still here. That's, I guess, kind of fun, but it's just not that strong, really. Good against spread decks, though. So, like, this would have hard countered the Gourgeist deck that I played, so that's pretty funny. Emboar gets a print in LTR, so if you want to do Inferno Fandango stuff, that is possible within this rotation. So did Sigilif. And then we have Garbodor also got a print there, so Garb decks are very common for the next format. And then I think it gets a Spiritual reprint, like, after this format ends as well, so Garb just kind of sticks around. It's unfortunate in some ways, but you know, whatever. Zora and Brutal Bash Zoroark gets a reprint. Foul Play does not, but we will get there. Emolga got a reprint in LTR, so did Stunfisk, so if you want the non-EX style Landorus thing, it is still possible. And I mean, with strong energy and stuff, I guess it's fine. My problem would be that it's a very heavy retreat cost, and like, do you really want to waste strong energy on this? I think you just want to do Shadow Power at this point. Hydreigon got a print in LTR, which is big actually if you want to play Phantom Forces stuff. That's what we're about to get into, and there's a really good Hydreigon there. You'd play this as a tech line in that, so that's nice. Tornadus gets an LTR print, as does the EX actually, so this is still available if you want. It's been power crept a fair bit, like Lightning Weakness is also pretty bad for it at this point because Yveltal has got a big target on its head, but this is still fine. All of the genies did get a print in LTR, so Thundurus is there. Reshiram and Zekrom also got a print there, as did the EX, so yeah, I suppose if you want to play those, that's fine. Reshiram EX with Protection Cube technically is cute, but then you can't Muscle Band it, so whatever. Just play Charizard EX, it's just actually better. Wait until they combine, then it's even worse. Waha. Yeah, so Zekrom, if you want to play Dawn Planet Dragons, you do actually have access to like all of the dragons, so that's cute, I guess. Landorus kind of got outclassed by its new version, but this one does resist lightning, the other one doesn't, so I guess that could matter. And then Kyurem EX keeps its first form as well. We have Kyurem EX from Plasma Blast, which is probably just better, but Frozen Wings is cute, I guess, so maybe you could play it, I don't know. And then there's a couple of item or trainer cards that actually stay as well. Random Receiver goes shiny print in Plasma Storm, so we keep this for the majority of the format. Fates Collide is the next and last printing of this card, so I think there's going to be like a 3-set gap or something, but it does come back, so yeah, that's cool. We could play it if we want. I don't think we will though, because we get a much better engine for doing supporter-based stuff in Phantom Forces, but this is neat nonetheless. And N stays in format too, which, yeah, I guess is cool. I've always been hit and miss about this thing, but I mean, I didn't like when it came back, is the thing. But if it's staying in format, that's fine. It's been good enough for us here. Couple of cards which are temporarily rotating. Enhanced Hammer goes away for exactly 1 set. It gets reprinted in Phantom Forces, which is where this one's from. And then Experience Share goes away for 2 sets because it is in Primal Clash. So yeah, it's away for half of the next format. So that's all the stuff which like doesn't or only temporarily leaves us. What do we actually lose? Some of this is not like relevant in modern times, but has seen success in the past. So we will go over as much as I could find, basically. Aerodactyl is not really great, and Sai didn't get the successful run of it with the Empoleon deck. Honestly, I can kind of see why, because that is a bit high rolly, but a simple plus 10 damage to all of your guys is pretty solid, so like use this with the basics and whatnot, and I could easily see it, you know, doing work. So yeah, it's a bit luck based, but it's a plus 10 to everything. That's gotta be worth something. This Sneasel, the Weavile is still in format with Vilify, as I've kind of removed it from my like sphere of influence, I suppose, pool of interest I should call it, because it's not as good without Level Ball, but Corner is a really good attack, and so even though this only had 60 HP and died to Lando in one hit, you often still saw like a one-of this, and in 2012 Worlds, this actually was something that was played without a Weavile, and as a one-off sometimes, so definitely worth noting. Raikou EX is not as good without Electric, but it still saw the play. I saw Fairy Box decks with this that actually did well in XY and Flash Fire actually, so yeah, Volt Bolt is still pretty strong. It can hit Yveltal, I guess, so there is that, and yeah, it's solid. 100 snipe, never really a bad thing. NTEX I'm noting because it won Canadian Nationals in 2012 somehow. I still don't know how. It was a tank deck, I suppose, but it just seems bad on the surface, so whatever. Grats to the guy, but it just seems horrible. Ho-Oh, Rip Puka's 5 state wins there. I think he won 28 games undefeated with this in city championships. It was absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, Rebirth is fun. Energy Switch was available for it, so that was also nice. And yeah, cool card. Shame we don't get to keep it. Gardevoir never really saw a huge amount of play. I played it with the Gothitelle in Next Destiny's format, and I guess that was fine, mostly because Gothitelle was good. But yeah, this sort of effect has never really seen play, so I'm not too sad to see this one go, but hey, it's creative at the very least, I suppose, and maybe with Dimension Valley and Phantom Forces this could have been reasonable, because then you could side drive for 1 energy. Interesting. Sableye Junk Hunt is something that Sai is going to be very happy to see go, because yeah, even though I tried not to play this as too often, because I could have played like a bunch of dart decks for time immemorial basically, I tried not to play it in every single round, and every time I did it kind of just stole the show. So yeah, definitely glad to see it go. It is banned and expanded for a reason, because it's just too powerful for that effect. It's just insane. So yeah, and we're only getting more item focused as we go as well, so this just gets worse and worse to fight against. Yeah, we didn't show Sableye Garbodor for a reason, but in expanded events, it was gonna get there, and it's really horrible. Roserade is mostly for the Empo Rose that was played in Dragons Exalted, but it did actually see some play in Virizion Genesect decks, actually, according to to Legends. So yeah, apparently people are experimenting with it even in like XY format and stuff too. It's kind of crazy. So yeah, I don't know. It was search your deck for only 1 card. Like, this is the first and probably only time this effect has been like super good, but it is super good. Like, search your deck for only 1 card is absolutely insane. So yeah, when the deck could use it, it was great. Registeel is mostly for the Klinklang EX decks, because it did have some, yeah, like the EX based Klinklang is what I mean. It had some relevance in the Plasma Steel sort of deck, just because it was that on Cobalion were the only real options that you had, and sometimes the spread damage was pretty solid. So yeah, otherwise it was really bad. Like, oh god, it's just a bad card. We did lose to it, admittedly, because I just couldn't draw anything and Garbodor happened, but yeah, it's not a good card. Kyogre X was used in the, I think it was John Roberts that had, maybe, I don't remember, the 2012 US Nationals, the Klinklang Metal Transfer deck played this and was really good. In concert with the Groudon, it could do really quite a lot of work. Like, Dual Splash is not to be underestimated. Smash Turn getting a little bit of spread, a little bit of snipe even, just like 30 to their active and then hit and run to, that's what I'm trying to say, to the bench stuff is nice. And yeah, Dual Splash can set up massive hits with the Groudon too. So yeah, it was really solid in that format, and it hit for a different weakness that the deck otherwise wasn't going to hit, and was relevant too. So yeah, it was a fantastic little pairing for that kind of deck. Rayquaza needs very little introduction here. This is honestly probably the best that this style of attack has been up to this point. We will have other versions of this later on that are good, like Necrozma was fantastic, but yeah, this was the first one that was just like, I can just discard all my stuff and get one shots dead easy, and it really had the tools to compete. Like the original Rayquaza EX was pretty solid for this sort of thing too, but it didn't have an unlimited attach like this one does. You still had to put a lot of work in, get a couple more Blaziken into play, and even then Muck EX was just kind of uncounterable apparently. So yeah, not salty about that. What are you talking about? Anyway, yeah, the Dragoverse could get one shots on everything in the format, take 2 prizes dead easy, and it was a lot of fun. This Drifloon, honestly, I don't know why, apart from, like, 70 HP is cool, but it's got 2 retreat. I don't know why people are playing Plasma Blast Drifloon when this one exists. It's not like Dark was going to get killed immediately, no, weakness-wise, because very little in Dark was hitting 30 on turn 1 unless they really popped off. So yeah, I don't know, and if they did pop off, then they'd probably kill the 70 HP one anyway, so I don't think there was a reason not to play this one personally. So yeah, it's got 1 retreat, and the attack might actually be something you can play, so I think it's better, but that's just me. Gabite, as I mentioned earlier, is going, so Dragon Call is going. Any Dragon deck that's released ever, basically, is going to miss this, so yeah, bit of a shame. Regigigas is a historic one because when Next Destinies came out, this did actually see some play. With Eviolite, you could nullify the disadvantage of Giga Power and just do 80 for turn, which was pretty solid. And Raging Hammer, if you actually touched this thing, was a very nasty attack to have to play around. So yeah, it was a pretty solid card when it came out. Giratina EX, I saw this in like 1 or 2 Fairy Box decks because it gets through Safeguard, and with a Muscle Band it gets through Suicune in 1 hit as well, so, and Pyro actually. So yeah, a bit of a loss against Pyro for Fairy Box decks, but then again, Pyro's not exactly in the greatest of spots moving forward anyway, because everybody's already countering it, so yeah, that's what Mega Kangaskhan's for. Mashana, the Muna stays in format with Long Distance Hypnosis because that came out later, but the consistency part that you might play alongside it is going. So I never liked this card personally. I think it only saw play in Excelgor decks, and that automatically makes me not like it, right? But I don't like it because it puts the other card back on top of the deck. At the time it came out, it was the only consistency Pokemon that we had, so it was like, begrudgingly you might play it, but as you saw, we basically didn't because it still isn't good enough even in that role. So yeah, I don't like it, but it's there anyway. Archeops didn't see any play whatsoever in Gen 5 because the mechanic was horrendous to bring it out, but in Primal Clash, like 3 sets into the next rotation, we would get Maxie's Hidden Ball Trick, which would allow you to cheat this into play, and being able to stop any evolution from happening, even in like a format which is dissuading a lot of evolutions, is gross and uncalled for. Because it stops Mega Evolutions as well, obviously, so like any of the new stuff that they'd be coming out with, it kind of just halts, and yeah, this card is busted. There's a reason this ended up getting banned for a while and expanded until I think Maxie's Hidden Ball Trick is now banned instead of this. But yeah, there's a reason, because it's just absolutely stupid, and that's all that we need to say. Foul Play Zoroark goes away. Foul Play on Zoroark is going to come back in 2016, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because its Ancient Origins is the last set of 2015, so they'll come back in the 2016 rotation in Zoroark Break, but it's taken a backseat for now. Foul Play as a concept is not entirely going away, but yeah, copy and attack stuff from the opponent's active is not happening for a little bit. Reuniclus goes away, and this is the last time that we see damage swap in this form. The only other damage swap that we have in history, as far as I know, is Generation 8 with Gengar, and that only works on Psychic Pokemon, so the universal damage swap never comes back. This print was from Next Destinies, I think, right? No, Dragon's Exalted, right, so the last set that gets rotated here. Amoonguss goes away, noteworthy for the Ninetales deck. That was a lot of fun and a surprisingly powerful deck as well, so I definitely appreciated it. It's one of my favourite decks of the era, so glad we got to play it well, and this card obviously was the cornerstone for that. Being able to put 2 status conditions on the opponent, really good. Neverizion happened and it went absolutely miserable, but you know, whatever. Chandelure never really managed to work for us, but I have been told at the very least that this was something that did get played. Tropical Beach obviously helped quite a bit, and yeah, I just never quite managed to make it happen. Floatstone I think came out too late for this to really work out the way that I wanted it to, but yeah, putting 3 damage counters on the opponent's Pokemon as an ability, very strong. So yeah, there was a world for it, it wasn't the world I was living in right now. Excelgor, thank God this goes away, to be honest. Deck and cover, especially with Dimension Valley coming out in Phantom Forces. Oh dear, deck and cover would be terrible than that. Give it to Mew EX for 1 energy. Ugh, no. Auto Paralysis is always very powerful. At least as a concept, it's usually gatekept by how difficult it is to achieve. Think Articuno EX with its Frost Prison. It's 2 water, 2 colorless, and one of those colorless has got to be a plasma. Yeah, this is so much easier to do, especially when you could search it with Level Ball. It's available for DCE, which is like the best energy that you can use for it that way, and it even preserves it by putting it back into deck as well. Stupid card, thank God it's gone. A little bit of a shame that Bouffalante is gone here, because this card's actually really cool. Goldbreaker, just being able to do 120 damage for any free energy on a non-EX is really nice, and 100 HP with 20 less damage from every attack, even if it's not from an EX. That's really good. Just a solid, nice card to have in the format. Sad to see it go, but then again, it's weak to fighting, which kind of crushes it in the next format anyway, so whatever, it probably wouldn't see play, but I just like it, so there you go. And then Terrakion EX, this saw some play with the Victini EX as well. We do keep the Victini, but I don't think there's any realistic hope that Victini is ever going to see play again, because it's weak to Seismitoad, basically. And yeah, I don't know, Pump Up Smash is fantastic, and the attack typing is still decent. Like, fighting is still a good type to hit, so I don't know, I could have seen it having play, but it is weak to Virizion as well. That kind of hurts a lot. Like when half your deck is weak to the part of Virgin and the other half still gets one shot by Megalo Cannon, probably a really bad matchup. Trainers and items and all of the fun energy stuff here. Dart Patch is probably the biggest individual loss here, because Dart decks have been abusing this to Kingdom Come for the last like 2.5 years basically of the format. I mean, it's item-based acceleration, what more do you need to say about it? It's absolutely disgusting. Funnily enough, it came back in Gen 8 and saw 0 play whatsoever, because the Dart decks, I guess, just can't quite keep up with the way things are going. They even have a really good Darkrai EX that would turbo stuff as well. So I'm not entirely sure how they've managed to not see play, but yeah, Dart Patch doesn't see play in the current iteration. It's very weird. This card's insane, and the different versions of it we get throughout the years will all see a ton of play as well for the same reason. So yeah, keep an eye on Gen 7 for Aqua Patch, that's nuts. Devolution Spray goes, which I'm mostly noting for the Fortress and for the upcoming Crobat line, because Bats would really enjoy this as well, and yeah, being able to evolve into something, do the ability, and then devolve with this is great. And yeah, losing it is a bit of a pain. I would have loved this for bad decks actually. It would save me playing Super Scoop Up and being sad every time I flip tails. Heavy Ball and Level Ball are both worth noting together here. Unfortunately, they do both rotate. Heavy Ball is maybe less noteworthy overall, but it's at least at the moment, but then is probably better to note with the decks that are coming up, because Seismitoad's got a free energy retreat cost, and like metal decks are in the Phantom Forces stuff. Bronzong is 90 HP and free energy retreat, so it would have been searchable by both. Aegislash EX is free energy retreat, so Heavy Ball would have been very prevalent in that deck. But it's mostly Seismitoad is probably why I'm glad this is going. Yeah, I'm sad for Level Ball though, because Level Ball being able to search for your low HP stuff but not your EXs was a very interesting dynamic for the game, and I really wish they kept this here as well. They do have it in the current TCG format in Scarlet Violet and whatnot, so that's cool, but I wish this was evergreen in a way, because this is one of the cards that really helps enable your evolving basics sort of thing, because yeah, just being able to search for the one prize non-evolving, evolving stuff really helps. And the only search card that we really have that's any good in this format is Ultra Ball, because Great Ball is not a fantastic card despite what it says. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sad for this, but so far it's been okay getting the stuff up, but that's really because we're not playing as many evolution things anymore, or what we are playing cheats the system. The Eevee specifically. Super Rod goes away for exactly 1 year's worth of sets. I believe this gets printed the set after 2015 Worlds, so we do not have a way of putting energy back into the deck for this next upcoming couple of sets at the very least. I think Energy Recycler was later on as well, so I don't think we have any way of doing any of that during the next rotation. It's very strange. We do have Sacred Ash for Pokemon, so at least we can get those back into deck. And, well, Lysander's trump card does get banned until the end of the rotation. It's like Roaring Skies when it... oh yeah, Roaring Skies is a thing, so we don't even get the Dragon type thing. This happens to me a lot where I end up going back on tangents, I'm sorry. Yeah, Super Rod, unfortunate to lose. Tool Scrapper would actually be really nice in this upcoming format, because Phantom Forces introduces tools that you put on the opponent's EXs, and Startling Megaphone does not remove your own tools. It's Harpy's Feather Duster, not Heavy Storm. So being able to scrap away tools that the opponent has forced on your EXs for big detrimental effects would have been really good. It's probably why it rotated, and why they didn't print those things until after it rotated. Sky Arrow Bridge is a pretty heavy loss for Virgin. They have to play more actual Switch cards now, and they can't win the Stadium War because there's no stadium for them to play. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a blow to Virgin. It could be a blow to other decks as well, because reducing basic retreats by 1 is really nice. I think if the fighting deck didn't get Fighting Stadium, well, it probably wouldn't be as good, but it also probably would have played this. So, you know, like stuff like Landorus has got a 1 energy retreat, and just being able to retreat for less in general really helps that kind of deck. So, yeah. A lot of the toolboxy stuff is just going to play Fairy Garden though, so this doesn't really affect much else. But Virgin was the best one for it, for sure. Tropical Beach finally rotates. We have Champions Festival as our one promo now for World stuff. I should really have talked about Champions Festival at some point, but it just almost never ever comes up. So it's like, what's the point of really mentioning it right now? But yeah, Tropical Beach, the one true playable from the World's promo stuff. Sometimes I think nowadays, actually, from what I've heard, very occasionally Champions Festival has been seeing some play. I forget where it was like God of War decks or something maybe that were playing it, but yeah, it very, very, very rarely comes up in TCG formats as we go, and yeah, for good reason, because it's terrible. This card was not, and Stage 2 decks really did love this, so it's probably a bad thing to lose out of the format, but what can you do? Twist Mountain, a much weaker stadium to lose, but this was the way that you could cheat Aerodactyl into play, so that's kind of cool. And I mean, they kept the fossil mechanic going into Gen 6, so Tyrant and Amora would have been searchable with this as well, or like not searchable, but playable with this. Thankfully, they've got their own supporter card that they can play instead, but yeah, I would have liked to have seen it still, I guess. It's a meme card, but sometimes that's fun. Dark Claw is historical. Muscle Band obviously completely outclasses us at this point because it's the same thing but for every Pokemon. But when Dark Explorers first came out, Dark Claw was one of the gigantic advantages that Darkrai and other Dark decks had, and it was very, very powerful. So definitely noteworthy. Giant Cape is interesting because giving 20 extra HP, generally weaker than giving 20 less damage to, like, with Hard Charm or Eviolite at the time. But Giant Cape was good for Garbodor instead of Eviolite because it couldn't do anything. Nowadays, Hard Charm generally outclasses this, but I can think of a couple of situations where Giant Cape might still be useful in its place. So, yeah, there's some benefits to it. Muscle Band is usually just a trainer that you'll see though, because damage mods are just so insane. But Hard Charm is fine too, and this also is fine in its own right. Problem is, if you Tool Scrapper this, then you lose the benefit of the HP, so you might get KO'd in the middle of a turn. Yeah, I don't know. Rescue Scarf was seen in the Garchomp deck mostly, but any deck that could fit it would really like this. You know, providing they weren't being forced into other tool stuff. Very good on Garbodor as well, annoyingly enough, because they just get the Garb back into hand after you remove it, so they can put it straight back down again, blah 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 blah. Yeah, Rescue Scarf is a cool thing, and this kind of effect has seen a decent amount of play as the formats go on. I believe it is Splash Energy that's going to be the next one for Greninja Break. So yeah, that card also sees play and is still perfectly fine. Just recovering your cards is good, who would have guessed, right? And then we're losing free special energy here, basically the free special energy from the 2012 format. Blend energies both go. So if you want to do, and Prism Energy actually goes as well, we might as well just talk about them all in one go. We only have Rainbow Energy for our multicolored thing now, which is fine, because I think if you have too many multicolored energy stuffs going at once and they're too easy to access, then it kind of cheapens a lot of the deck stuff, because you don't really have to think about your attaching stuff at that point. It's just, I could play like 10 different types in my deck, and every single one of them gets powered up by all the same things. And Prism Energy especially I just have in the front with, because why should basic Pokemon be the only things that get Rainbow Energy in a format? That was just gross and uncalled for. Thankfully, like, it didn't matter too much for Gen 5, like the card design was not in the sort of place where you were going to play evolutions that needed Rainbow for the most part, but still, that was a design constraint that should not have existed in the first place, in my opinion. And yeah, the blend energies are cool, but also just not necessary for a healthy format, I think. Yeah, it is a bit of a shame for the Hydreigon deck, I guess, that you lose this one, because then Hydreigon attacking is a bit less realistic, if at all possible. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not beat up about seeing them go. The typings were quite nice though. Like Ninetales could really take advantage of this as well, being able to use the fire for Ninetales and the dark for Sableye. But a lot of the cards that abuse this are already rotating anyway, so what does it really matter? I don't think we need to really play fighting types in Empoleon as a, you know, guaranteed this is going to be great sort of thing. And even if you do, you can just play Rainbow Energy. It is totally fine. Yes, you put a damage counter on yourself. I don't think that's a big enough detriment. That is the rotation stuff. Yeah, a bit rambly, sorry, but I go on tangent stuff a lot when I realize like I'm sort of doing a thing, I don't quite get a fort complete, and then you see stuff later on, and it's like, oh, that's the completion of that fort. So yeah, apologies, but I mean, if you've watched anything of mine, you'll already know this. So yeah, this format was fun. 2014 in general was a relatively good year for stuff. XY was a really funky introduction to things, but the format itself was a lot of fun to play, and we had a lot of enjoyment out of it. Unfortunately, evolution stuff, at least one Prizer evolution stuff, is very, very difficult to play from here on out. So I don't know how much of that's actually going to see like competitive success. But I'm going to do my damnedest to try and use some of the ones as they come up that are at least interesting I know in Fates Collide, for example, there was like Delphox and Superior, which I quite liked individually, of course. And yeah, I'll try, but don't expect to see too many one prizer like Stage 1. Stage 2 especially is just like almost unviable from here on out, so don't expect to see too many of them. But that's mostly a card design issue. Like in Gen 5, I think it was fine. You know, there were a lot of good evolution cards that could keep up for the most part, even though the pressure was piling on them. Here in XY, like, I don't know, it's just like you can't keep up anymore because they've rotated all the good stuff for it. If we still had Level Ball, I think evolution cards could still be C play. That's pretty much where it is. But anyway, that's enough of that. Thank you very much for sticking with us here. Hopefully you have enjoyed yourself and found this interesting. And next time we discuss Furious Fists and go from there. Till then, take care.